Okay, so it's the next day, and as you can see, I have gotten all the grouting done. And like I said, this is a totally optional step. And this is a perfect sitting height for them, as we demonstrated. However, right now, so I'm going to set her aside to be safe. And we are going to get to the final steps on this, which is painting. Now, fieldstone can either be solid gray, it could be more of a brown sandstone kind of a color, or it can be a mix. And looking at this sample down here, we're going to go for the mix. So what I like to do is I like to pick whatever my grout color is, and I'm going to use this, I think, for the grout color. Your grout can be gray, you can leave it the yellow that it is. It's all up to you. So I've just got an old paper plate here that I'm going to use as a palette. And I'm just going to put a good amount of this gray on here because we're going to cover the whole thing. You're just going to paint the whole thing gray. So let me get a nice big brush. You could use anything you wanted, a foam brush, a regular paintbrush. I'm just going to use a regular large paintbrush. I'm going to use this guy right here. And I personally love these. I get these at Walmart in like big packs for just a few bucks. So I don't know if any of you ever watch those shows that show you how to paint a wall. I use the same technique. You use an X pattern like this. It helps minimize the brush stroke. The trick here is in the grout lines, you want to make sure you get them all covered. If you don't cover the entirety of a stone, you know, I wouldn't worry about it too much. We are, like I said, going to be layering this. And this particular gray, I'm kind of off screen right now. This particular gray, you may feel is too dark for you, so use a lighter gray. This one is medium gray from Folk Art. You could also get pale gray, or like I said, you could just use some kind of a brown. It's entirely, grout comes in many colors. You could use black if that's what you wanted, if you wanted a very dramatic look. All right, so we're going to continue with that, and I will be right back. Okay, so we have the base coat on. One thing I had done previously that I forgot to do this time, live and learn, or remember as the case may be, is I had put a thin layer of Mod Podge over the whole thing so that it wouldn't be quite as absorbent. As you can see, it's a little patchy. I don't know how it shows on camera, but the wood filler can be very absorbent and it can come out a little spotty, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to go ahead and move on. So what I've done is I've gotten a few different colors of paint. I've gotten a lighter gray than what we have on there. I've got a brown color, and then I have this weird yellow, pale yellow color. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure our paint is all shook up. I'm going to put it on our little palette. And this is where it gets a little crazy. You're just going to randomly select stones to be the different colors. So I'm just going to take my brown paint, which I have on my palette here. Just going to get a little on there, and I'm just going to pick, let's say we want our keystone to be of the brown color. And this is where you have to take your time a little bit. You don't want to get the grout. I mean, you can almost paint the grout back over, just like I did right there. See? Just instantly wrong. You don't want to get it on the grout if you can help it. Because painting that grout is a bit of a chore. See, and I did it again right there. I'm not even listening to myself. And I know this looks bright and intense right now because the rest of it isn't painted, but we are going to come back in with some washes, what are called washes, and those washes will help tone all this down. And it's hard to get it so you can see it on camera, but you want to make sure you come up under here. And once again, you just want to paint the stone. And a little of the gray showing through is fine because stones aren't all one solid color. They tend to vary. And we're just going to pick another random stone. How about this guy right here? Now you could also try a technique like sponge painting, and I don't have a sponge readily available. I'm just going to continue randomly selecting stones to be this orangey brown. Okay, so let's switch out colors here so you can get an idea. So we're going to go with this super pale gray again. And it's looking pretty shocking now, isn't it? You're probably thinking to yourself, what is wrong with you? Well, where do we begin? Okay, so we're just going to keep going like this, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm all done, and then we'll talk about how to do washes in order to tone some of this color down. Okay, hold the phone. I just realized, well, I actually set this aside for a day or two and was thinking about it because the paint wasn't coming out the way I wanted it to. It was very streaky. You could see brush strokes. And then it occurred to me that I was using the wrong painting technique. I was using the right colors and everything, but the painting technique that I should be using is one where you water the paint down. And the reason for this is that when you water the paint down, the brush strokes don't show. There's no brush strokes, essentially. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some gray paint here and just dip it in the water a little bit. The stipple or pounce technique. And now this is just where you take your brush. I'm going to see if I can find a stone that needs some touch up. How about this guy right here? And you, once again, you kind of liquidize your paint a little bit so it's a little more on the runny side. And you kind of stroke it on and then you tap. And immediately you start to get that mottled look. So I'm just going to go like that. I'm going to put my paint on. And you see what it's doing? So I brush the paint on and then I go like that, and it's breaking the paint up, and you twist your brush different angles and immediately you're getting that mottled stone look. So let's just do the front. And then you just dab. And voila! It looks like mottled stone. I picked up another color, and I'm just going to go and just kind of put it not all over. I'm just kind of picking an area and just tapping the color in. And it's creating a bit of variation. So I kind of just did it towards the bottom half, and I did not touch the top. So I don't know how well you can see how that looks versus this one color. And I can go back in and pounce over this one, or stipple, and try to break up that color and add some interest and texture to it. Very subtle effect, but very effective. So everything we're doing is just going to add, and I mean, the best effects honestly are where you layer your paint. And this paint layering, this constant going back and touching up and layering the paint is what's going to give you the end result you're looking for. Now you want to be careful not to muddy. So when you're doing something like this, don't like try to do it all at once. Let your layers like dry and then come back and then, you know, just redo it. I mean, if you mess up, just paint right back over it with the original base coat and try again. And then you just keep doing it until you're satisfied with the look you have. And then we'll move on to the next step, which is a wash, a black wash that's going to try and even it all out. And when you're using these watered down paint layers, they dry really, really fast. So it shouldn't take long for each layer to dry, and then you can move on to another stone and then come back and then add more to the stone that you were working on. All right, so I will be back in a moment. Okay, so now we're going to do something called a black wash, and it has been a hot minute since I've done anything like this. So I think we're just going to start on the side here. So anyway, all a black wash is really super watered down black paint. And they also do brown washes and green washes. In general, they're very dark in color because they're supposed to simulate either something that's gotten dingy and dirty over the years, or it's supposed to bring out like shadows and basically tone down this wild coloration. They also recommend that you add something called a flow aid, which is usually some kind of a soap. And what soap does is it breaks up the surface tension of water and allows it to literally just streak down. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a beat up old brush here, and we are going to dip it in. I'm putting it on and you're probably thinking, oh my Lord, you're destroying it. But this is going to dry much lighter and more translucent. And you can see already how it's toning down this intensity of color. And it's going to even the tone out so it's not quite so splotchy. And I had used this technique on the cabin and on the prototype that you saw. And this actually, another group, I had mentioned the Railroaders, and another group that really knows their miniature stuff are the D&D tabletop gaming people. They build terrain so that they can do their tabletop gaming sessions. And some of the stuff they build is just unbelievable. So I am just going to let this settle out and dry. Sometimes blowing on it helps get rid of these bubbles. So wipe my table off because I dribbled. So anyway, so I'm going to let this sit and dry. It won't take long. It'll only take a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back and take a look at it. Okay, so here it is before we did the black wash. And here it is after. I don't know how well it shows on the camera, but like on this stone here, which is that intense orangey color that you see, like on this one here, or just tilt this because it's so tall, or here, when you look at it here, you can see the difference. So it has toned down and evened out the tone of the stone immensely, and just gives it a more realistic effect. So the last stage that we would do is we would do the highlighting, which is called dry brushing technique. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to black wash the rest of our fireplace, and then we'll come back. Okay, so the next step, now that it's dry, as you can see, it's been black washed. It's got a much more rustic, evened out appearance, and a lot of the intense color has been toned down. So now the next thing is to bring the highlights and the stones back out so we really see the creases. You're going to need a brush that's dry. You don't want any water on this at all. And you can use white, but I'm going to use a slightly off-white color. This is called Toasted Marshmallow from Apple Barrel, just to keep it looking a little bit softer. And you're just going to take the tiniest bit, and then you're going to almost wipe all of it off. So now you just want to get the barest color. Let me see what's showing up. Let's just try this guy right here. Well, let's try the keystone. Let's do the keystone. And you're literally just taking your dry brush and you're making X-like patterns. And I don't know if you can see it, but that paint, and you don't want to push, you're just kind of dragging it over the surface very lightly. I don't know if you can see it, but right here along these creases, it's catching on the tops of those creases. And they are showing up. You're going to try and avoid getting any light streaks or paint in the lower surfaces. You're just trying to catch the highlights of these creases. It'll start to show up, and it's just going to bring all those nice creases you worked so hard on. It's going to bring them back out. Of course, you're only going to try and get it on the stones. You don't really want to get it in the grout, so you guys still got to be cautious about getting it on the grout. The way you want to figure out where's the light coming from. My light source is going to be from above, so I only stroke down so that when I'm catching these highlighted areas, it's actually only catching where light would really in real life hit. So there you go. We're going to keep going with this. Let's see what it looks like right there. Just gently, barely stroking it along. Brush almost has no paint on it at all. Well, silly me, as I was going along, I suddenly realized I was using the wrong brush. I was using a brush with a rounded tip. I get better results personally with one of these, just good old-fashioned flathead brush like this. Because it doesn't have any, like, come to a point or anything, you're less likely to get streaking with something like this. So when you're doing your dry brushing, it's just gonna do a much better job of catching all the little creases and crevices without leaving. I got some streaking on this one, and I was like, what? And then I realized I was using the wrong type of brush. You really should use one of these flat straight edge brushes. So that's just another tip, and you can really see all the lovely creases that you worked so hard to get in there coming right back out at you. So you can see this stone compared to this one or this one that don't have the highlighting yet. So hopefully that's showing up on camera. So anyway, yeah, this brush right here. All right, back at it. Okay, everybody, there it is. It is painted all up. So now that we've done all the low lighting and the highlighting and everything, I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to seal it right now. And I'm just sealing the stones. I'm not doing anything with the Firebox just yet because we've still got more to do on the Firebox. So you could use anything you wanted. I'm taking some matte Mod Podge, and I'm just going to cover the whole thing, and that's just going to seal it up, protect the paint. You can use a sponge brush. You can use anything you want. You might want to use something more disposable because, you know, Mod Podge it's glue. It will ruin a brush. I don't want it too gloppy. So, yep, I'm just going to go through and just kind of make sure it gets into all the little nooks and crannies. And make sure nothing happens to the fireplace. Okay, here's our fireplace. It is sealed, painted up, and ready to go. So for the most part, it's done. Now, you could say, you know, hey, it's a brand new fireplace. They really haven't used it yet. I'm just going to leave it as is, and you can walk away right now. Me being me, I'm going to go. I'm going to say it's an old, dirty, used fireplace, and they've had a lot of fires in it, and so I need to put the soot inside of it. I need to dirty it up a bit. Now, one mistake that people make is where the fire burns hottest, you aren't going to get the smoke and smudge. It's going to be relatively clean. Plus, there's a draft of air coming in that's feeding the fire, and it goes up the chimney and pulls the soot with it. So you're not going to see a lot of soot right here. Now, I've pulled up a couple of examples that I'm going to have down here, and you can see that the soot actually begins up higher, and you can actually almost see a shape of the fire, like a negative image of the fire. And so what I have here is a chalk pastel in black, and I am just going to come up in here, and it gets pretty darn dirty and dark, and this is going to get really messy. Chalk pastels are messy. And I'm just going to start putting it on there like that. Now you can use your finger, but this is a artist's smudge stick. And you just get in there and you just start rubbing it around. I know it's hard to see, and I don't know how well you can see that up in there, but you can see we're getting soot. We're getting it dirty. But I want to remember, if you look at our examples, that the fire is going to be, so why don't we just do this? And the sides remain relatively clean, oddly enough. So I'm just going to rub it all in here like this. I'm going to bring it down the sides a little, like that. Like I said, if you don't care about getting dirty, just get in there with your fingers and start rubbing it around. Sometimes the oils in your fingers can actually help the process. Get a little right there. And as you can see, which I think you can see, you should be able to see a little bit that we are starting to get that ghost flame effect in there. And our fireplace is starting to look used and dirty, which for our fireplace is exactly what we want. So I am going to bring it a little to the sides here. And then you can see the side is now smudgy and dirty. I'm going to get in that corner a little better. And we're going to take our chalk pastels. And I got these chalk pastels off of Amazon. It was a set of about 20 different colors. Anyway, and it was only like $11 or so, so they're not that expensive. And as you can see, they give you a really, really great effect. And then, of course, when you're done, you're going to want to be careful not to touch anything. Your fingers will look like this. There. So now we have our realistic smudge. And that just took a minute. I mean, that just literally. And another thing you can do, by the way, is you could take your smudgy, dirty fingers, because there will be ash and soot obviously here on the bottom as well. So, there. That looks a little better. You can go like this, and there we go. Yeah, somebody needs to clean their fireplace. There we are. There, that's better. Okay. So now we have a dirty, nasty fireplace. Yay! Okay. When we come back for the next and final installment, I ordered the lights that I will need, and they came in. So I am going to show you how I would put flickering flames in here. And then I'm going to do the logs. I'm going to actually find some sticks and burn some logs and show you how I do all that craziness. And then my fireplace will be complete at that point. But like I said, you can stop right here if you want to, and it will be just fine. Just put some sticks in there to look like logs, and you're done. All right, so thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.